Let's do one more thing with this. Let's just exit this. Let's try one more thing with this. You might have heard about a tool which is known as Hydra. Hydra is a very good tool for scanning and doing brute force attack. What is a brute force attack? Brute force attack is an attack where I'm going to try combination of different usernames and password and try to attack the system with the same. So what I'm going to do, I know that there are some default usernames and password. It could be that I have done a social engineering attack on the business and tried to figure out what are the different usernames and passwords for the business, or it could be related to that I'm just going here and doing a password list kind of thing. So if you just Google search it, you will also get it, brute force password list. So you will get some of the commonly used passwords. So they have a 10 million password list here. So you can also use such kind of thing. So here what I have done, I have created two text files. One is a user text file. So I did a social engineering attack on the person or the business, tried to build up what are the different users they can use. So you can see that we have admin, support, user, MSF admin, service, PostGRES, super admin. So just different users listed under this file. Next, I have created a passwords file. So this is again the common passwords they might have used: admin, support, user, MSF admin, service, PostGRES, SQL, and super admin. So again the common passwords they might use. Let's try to do a brute force attack on the FTP which we have here. So we have figured out this FTP is vulnerable. So we are trying to do some kind of attacks and trying to exploit that. So I'm going to use the users file and password file here. So let's just pass the user file here. The syntax for the same is that use -l, then start with the root, go to the desktop. Under desktop I have users.txt. Now I will use the password file here. Use the password file, go to the root, find the desktop, then I will use the pass.txt here. Now I have to pass in the IP address where I'm trying to do the brute force attack. So I'm trying to do the brute force attack over 192.168.56.103, and the service on which I'm trying to do the brute force attack, FTP. Once I have done this, I will also pass a -v flag, which is mainly related to that I need to see the information what you are doing back there. So let's try to run this now. Click enter. So now it's trying to run the brute force attack on the system. Hydra is a very powerful tool which does that. So you see, after running the brute force attack, what has happened, he is actually giving me all the usernames and passwords which are able to log in into the FTP. So user, MSF admin, service, PostGRES, all these combinations of username and passwords are able to actually log in into the system. So let's try with any one of those. So let's do FTP 192.168.56.103, and then pass in user name and user as the password, and you see again I am able to log in into the system. So different methods on how I have exploited the system, and once I have exploited the system, now I can go ahead and delete their files, update their files, change anything. So as an ethical hacker, it's your job to figure out that how this whole process worked, how you exploited the server, what are the different things you have carried out to exploit the server, and what are the mitigation techniques of this. What is happening here, the person, the security administrator is using a default user, so I'm able to exploit using the default user. Second thing which is happening here, I'm able to run a brute force attack, so the servers should be safeguarded from the brute force attack. How to safeguard from that? A very common way which you have seen under internet banking also, that after 3 tries the server will lock. So here also do something like this: after 3 tries lock the server, or actually use some kind of combinations of usernames and passwords. Don't directly use the common usernames and passwords. So all these things I can just formulate a report and provide it to the business that these are the different things I have figured out, so you should protect your system with that. So that's the main purpose and main goal of how an ethical hacker is going to work with the system. So now ethical hacking across domains. So this demonstration which I just showcased you, this was more on the network side because I'm trying to actually hack the server. But ethical hacking actually occupies different roles under different kinds of verticals. So if you talk about web application, there would be some other kinds of attacks which I'm trying to exploit. These could be related to SQL injection or some kind of other CSS attack, CSRF attack. It could be related to that I'm trying to do some kind of encoding or encryption, or those kind of things could be there with the web application where I'm trying to figure out your username or password or trying to hack your databases. Then we have network architecture, which I just showcase you one small example. This is just the tip of the things. If you go deep into the network architecture, you will learn many more tools and how to completely do that process. Then we have mobile applications. Mobile applications also has a very big concepts for ethical hackers, because currently most of the people are using mobile devices to actually access much of their business and services, and it's just part of the complete role for ethical hacking to make sure that the mobile devices are also protected. So throughout the course of ethical hacking, these are going to be the some of the verticals which you will be facing and seeing that how the whole process works, and this will be a very good way to learn the whole concept of ethical hacking. And so there are three major domains under ethical hacking. So now you guys understand what is an ethical hacker, what are the different types of hacking techniques, what are the different security measures, and we also showcase one of the example demos related to ethical hacking. So under ethical hacking, we have three major domains. The first one is web application, which is more related to the web application and the applications which are hosted online. So let's say if you are hosting a website online and then you need to provide some kind of security for the website, then you might go and hire an ethical hacker to do the security testing and give you the report based on the same. So as an ethical hacker, it's your job to figure out what are the different vulnerabilities and threats associated with the web application, and then finally provide the report for the same to the organization. The second one is mobile application domain. So mobile is currently gaining a lot of traction because we are in the phase where we use smartphones a lot. Everyone is carrying a smartphone with them. So more and more people are using some kind of application, some kind of communication using the mobile devices. So mobile devices are now much more hampered and much more targeted, that people are trying to break the systems or get something out of the same. You might have also heard that if you are using some application like Google Pay, and you might have heard that some money got transferred from Google Pay to some attacker's domain. So those kind of things, as an ethical hacker, you should know how all those different structures work, what is the actual core of the whole mobile Android base or the operating system, and then you need to diverge and see that how the different attacks work over the mobile devices and how you should protect those mobile devices or provide some security measures. So that will again be a benefit for the organizations as you are working as an ethical hacker for the organizations. Finally, we have the network architecture domain. The first two ones, the web application and mobile application, these are more towards the application side. So the person, the attacker who is trying to attack your system will be based and interacting with your application. But with the network architecture domain, it's more on the network side. So the person is going to bypass your security or the firewalls or the proxy servers and try to hack your servers directly. And network architecture domain is much more hardcore, it is much more complex compared to the web application and mobile application, and you need to understand the structures of how network works, how data packets are being transmitted, and how operating system works to tackle the network architecture domain. There are many more domains. If you go towards the other end, the new emerging technologies, you can take the IoT domain, where the devices are interacting to each other. Ethical hackers are required in IoT domain too, because we need to make sure that the entities are protected. It should have some kind of authentication, some kind of security maintained between the different devices. It should not be something like, let's say you have a Alexa at home and then you have multiple smart devices who are communicating to Alexa. The communication needs to be secure. It should not be that a hacker is able to extract some kind of information from your smart devices, or he could control your smart devices after hacking your system. So we need to make sure that those securities are present. Similarly, there are many more domains like cloud computing, edge computing, and blockchain. So we will talk about those later. Currently, we are just focusing on the three major domains: web application, mobile, and the network domain. So the first one, web application domain. So web application domain is the most important one for the ethical hackers, because 75% of the total attacks which happen throughout the world are on the web applications, and this is the one which is the front end. So most of the companies are looking into developing web applications. Everyone is looking to build up a website, everyone is looking to start off something like a software as a service and then provided it online, and those are a lot. There are a lot of applications, there are a lot of websites which are present in the market. So web application makes up about 75% of the total work for a security analyst or an ethical hacker. And there are two different major categories under the web application domain. The first one is the client side vulnerabilities. The second one is the server side vulnerabilities. How we define these client side and server side vulnerabilities? Client side is more related towards if something can be manipulated on the client side. You might have seen that, let's say there was an example in India, the Supreme Court of India, they had this website, and the hacker was able to actually inject some kind of HTML code on top of it. So that we call it as a defacement attack, because they are trying to just deface the organization. So they injected some kind of HTML code, and that's a client side vulnerability, because the application for the Supreme Court of India was not protected from the HTML inputs. So they need to have some kind of whitelisting or blacklisting maintained. So there are other client side attacks also. There is related to the CSS attack, which is mainly related to cross-site scripting reflected. So they are going to inject some kind of script and get the reflection out of the script. And there are many more attacks related to the same. Similarly, we have the server side vulnerabilities. Server side vulnerabilities is on the server end instead of the client end. So let's say if you are using a MySQL database and your front end is directly appointing the SQL variables in the front of the application, so the attacker could try to do a SQL injection. Suppose you are using a PHP application, and again you are using some kind of PHP commands directly with your client side. So again the attacker could do some kind of PHP injection. So those kind of attacks are more towards the server side vulnerabilities, where the attacker is trying to exploit some vulnerabilities present inside the server and extract different informations from your system. And if you see now, these client side and server sides, these are actually categorized into three major attacks. The first one, we call it as a parameter tampering. Parameter tampering is something, let's say in a traditional way, how the whole structure works, how a website is maintained. Your website is mainly maintained like this. Let me just open a notepad to give you a brief idea. So very normal architecture, how a normal architecture will be defined, that you have an application server where the website is running. For now, let's say this is running example.com, and then you will have the client who is interacting with the application server. So this is a very normal structure which normally people follow, that whenever you are setting up a website, you will be setting up an application server and you will have a client. In a much more advanced structure, what you will have, that you will actually separate the application server from the database server. So your database will be kept on a different server, your application on a different server, and your client will be separate. That's a very normal behavior for any website. Now when we talk about parameter tampering is basically that the attacker is sitting in the middle. So he's sitting in the middle, he's trying to locate what kind of data is being sent from the client to the application. You might have heard in a normal interaction between client and server, how the interaction occurs, that you send a request from a client and the application provides you the response. That's the normal interaction. I will send a request, I will get a response. I'm clicking on a button, that is a request. The response is that the new page is opening up. So the attacker who is sitting here, he will act as a man in middle, and he will try to sniff your data. He will try to read your data and see what you are trying to send, what is happening in the whole process. So what this kind of attack is, parameter tampering, this is related to that the attacker is sitting in the middle and he's trying to read your data and then tamper your data. He will either try to change it, he will try to import some kind of his data, he will try to delete the packets or something like that. He will try to do. Although it could be that you are sending the encrypted text. Let's say this is the client, and client is sending a request to the server that how are you doing today. So what is going to happen, that you are using an encryption, so this is going to be sent across in an alphanumeric string, and the application is going to receive the same, that the response is coming in a alphanumeric string, which will be converted back to how you are doing today, and that is the actual response. But what an attacker could do, attacker although cannot see what is being sent across, but what he can do is that he can modify this. He will try to change this. Let's say he remove these 5 and add his own. Now what will happen, once you decrypt this how you are doing today won't be there. The old original message would never be there. It will be some jumble sentence or some jumble something else would be presented here, and the server won't be able to understand what is happening. So these are some of the attacks which happen under the tampering, that they sit in the middle, they try to tamper the different parameters you are trying to send between application and servers. The second kind of attack here is unvalidated inputs. Unvalidated inputs is the attack where they try to provide some inputs which are not validated or should not be provided with the system. Let's say you have a login box in your website, you have a web application running again, and this web application is on example.com, and there you have, let's say, a login box. So you have a login name and login password. So what the normal accepted conditions for your login name and password is that under login name you will provide something like, let's say, admin, and then under password also you will go and provide something like admin. Now the unvalidated inputs is that instead of providing this, what the attacker is going to do, attacker is going to do something like, let's try this, let's try to run script and then try to put something alert, you are hacked. This is something the attacker could do. So this is an unvalidated input because the login name should not be in this condition. Or instead of this, attacker can go ahead and do some kind of thing like this, iframe and iframe. So this is HTML injection. So he will put iframe and iframe, and then inside source provide some weird website, and he will try to see whether he is able to deface you. Instead of this, he can also do something like, let's say you are running a SQL behind this, so he will try to break your SQL. So he will try to put something like this. Here you will have some quotations, then he will do a union select star from users. He can also do something like this. So these kind of inputs are unvalidated inputs, and your application should be protected from such inputs, and both unvalidated inputs will work under client side and server side. And finally we have the directory traversal attack. This kind of attack is a much more complex attack compared to the parameter tampering and unvalidated input, because this is related to the operating system. If your website, if your web application is exposing some kind of operational related to operating system, then a directory traversal attack could take place on you. And it's again very common if you're running a website which is related to DNS system. So let's say you are running a website who will just do a DNS lookup. For doing a DNS lookup, you will run an operating system command. Now if you import this operating system command on your web interface, what is going to happen, the attacker will try to break your system. He will try to run some kind of operating system commands and get the whole access to your directories, your different file structures, or even the users of your server. So that's one of the directory traversal attack, and these three actually makes up the whole scenario for the web application attack. So if you want to categorize other attacks, you can easily categorize under this. If you talk about HTML injection or cross-site scripting, that can come under unvalidated inputs. If you want to talk about man in middle, that is under parameter tampering, and if you want to talk about OS command injection, that is under directory traversal attack. So moving ahead, some of the common web application attacks. So the first one, which is very common, is injection flaws. This is almost 70% of the attacks on websites. So injection flaws, again, in the same way as I have told you, that there could be a SQL injection where the person is trying to inject a SQL command inside your text boxes. It could also be related to HTML injection, your some kind of code injection, let's say PHP injection, OS command injection. All these different injection processes will be under injection flaws, where the person is trying to inject some kind of code. And this is one of the major one. Almost 70% of the attacks are based upon SQL injection, and this is the one which is being mostly used by different attackers. So as an ethical hacker, you should know the process of how the SQL injection works, and you should also know the process of how you can hack different web applications using SQL injection, and that is one of the major things. Then the second one is cross-site scripting. Cross-site scripting is related to executing a JavaScript on top of a web application. These are of two types. One is known as reflected and the other one is known as stored. Reflected is the one which is just a reflection from the client side, and the stored is the one which is based on the victim side. So reflected is something that I run the script, I get the output. So it's more based upon the server because I'm not attacking any victim. I will try to put something like script, some input like this. Let's say I have a login box again, so I will have login and password. So here what I'm going to try to do, I'm going to try to put something like this, script, and then I will run alert document.cookie. So basically I'm getting a reflection back from the server, so I'm trying to attack the server with the reflected. On the other hand, the other one, the stored one is related to that you store a script on top of the website, and this is something like, let's say you have a subscribe button, and inside subscribe you just type in your email and click on subscribe. Now what the attacker could do that he could add a script here and then do a script here, and then he can inside this write the whole JavaScript code to mail him some user information, which is very common. This happened with New York Times. So they had this subscribe button with the email option, and the attacker was able to put up a script there and store the script with their server. So once a user visits the website, what was going to happen, the user's details regarding the session IDs and all the different details were actually mailed to the attackers. This also happened on YouTube. YouTube had this user details option, and they need to provide upload the data there. So what used to happen, that once you are uploading the video, attackers figured out that while uploading the video you can also upload script tags, and what will happen, that if a user visits your video, try to see your video, his profile is going to be modified completely. So they provided the JavaScript which was actually running to modify the user's profile who was visiting the video there. So these are some of the common things which could happen with cross-site scripting. Now if you talk about web services attack, this is also an attack related to, very common attack related to web application. And in this attack what usually happen is that the attacker is trying to actually poison some kind of caching or cookies or the file uploads. So this is more related to that he will upload an external file on top of your web application. Through that he will try to figure out what is happening. Let's say you have a browse button for uploading a file there. Let's say you are currently just uploading an image file. So what attacker is going to do, attacker is going to try to upload a PHP file or try to upload a Ruby file, and through that he's trying to see whether any kind of command execution can be ran across your web application. So web services attack is also a very common web application attack. Moving ahead, the hacking methodology for web applications. So there are three different ways how we go about testing and seeing how web application attack works. The first one is web footprinting, which is mainly related to gathering information. Gathering information is more of that you try to see what is happening behind the system. You try to see how the whole system is running, how the whole web application is going to run, what is the different commands which are being executed. Let's say if I give you a login box, I provide you a login box, and just a very normal login box where you have login and password. So what is information gathering with this? On this web application, what you are going to try to do, first you will try to run a happy cycle. You will try to see what is actually happening behind this login functionality. After this you will try to read console and errors. Then you will try to read URL and cookies. After this you will try to read the page source. So all those things you are going to try to do with this login page which I have provided you, and this is mainly related to the information gathering. What you are trying to do, you are trying to figure out that what kind of vulnerability is present with this web application. The second one is vulnerability scanners. There are many vulnerability scanners available in the market. Acunetics is one of the major one. W3AF is also a good one. W3AF is an open source one. So you can provide your website or web application to these scanners, and these scanners will automatically just scan across your codes and see what kind of different attacks or what kind of different vulnerabilities are present on your system, and through that again you can provide the report to the organization that these are the different things which are happening with your system. And finally, we have identify the entry points and attack services. So you try to identify the different entry points and attack services. So once you gather information, you try to see if I could combine multiple attacks together. Can I do something like I run a CSS attack, cross-site scripting attack, and through that I go ahead and run a OS command injection attack. So if I could combine multiple attacks together, then I can do much more damage to the whole system. So those kind of entry points and attack surface you try to monitor around, that how can I create this into a bigger attack? If I'm able to exploit something, how can I escalate this and get much more out of this? So this is also very important for the ethical hacker, because they need to figure out the total risk for a vulnerability. It could be that the risk is very small or very low, but it could also be that the risk is very high. It could be a very short system where you have just the cross-site scripting enabled, but using cross-site scripting, the attacker is able to actually execute some other major attacks, and through that the whole system will be hacked, and then it will be much more harmful than just a normal cross-site scripting. So just the hacking methodology. So this is an example for SQL injection. So as I already told you how the SQL injection works. Normally as an ethical hacker, you have to brainstorm it. Let's say if I give you a login here, that you have a login and password. So your first thinking would be how this work, how the whole system might work. It might work that you are accessing some kind of table, let's say for an example user. So you can go ahead and create something like select star from users, where login name equal to, if I try to pass admin here, so you try to pass admin here, and similarly you try to pass password admin here, and password equal to admin. So just your brainstorming will help you much more with the whole scenario. So you are trying to see what is happening if I have given you a login page which has login and password. A very basic command which might run behind this would be select star from users, where login name equal to admin and password equal to admin. So that might run behind the whole process. So SQL injection is in the same way, that you try to brainstorm what is happening behind this. Once you figure out, let's say for our example, you figured out that select star from users, where user ID equal to admin and password equal to shadow. Then after this, you try to break the system. How you can break the system? Instead, so you now know that if you type anything inside user ID, that is going to replace admin, and if you type anything in password, that is going to replace shadow. So how you can now break the system? So for our example, he has broken the system by doing something like this. So we will go into the demonstration and see this later on. So currently just try to understand what SQL injection is doing here.